The night of June 13, 2025 began like so many others in Tehran. The summer air was heavy, hot, dry, and restless. In the capital, the city was still breathing. Students gathered on park benches whispering about the latest football scores and the tightening grip of local politics, while traffic thinned out on Bali Asr Street. For the millions living below, it was an ordinary Friday night. But far above the city, just beyond the reach of Iranian radar, a storm was gathering. A fleet of more than 200 Israeli aircraft was already en route. This was a force larger than anything Iran had ever imagined, crossing its borders at once. These were not just planes. They were the tip of a spear honed over months of secret drills with flight paths that were exact, targets that were predetermined, and timing rehearsed down to the millisecond. At 1240 a.m., the first formations slipped across Iran's western border. These warplanes carried more than just physical bombs. They carried the weight of a decision the world had been dreading. The objective was clear: stop the nuclear clock, or watch the balance of power tilt irreversibly. The first explosions were not heard by civilians but were felt by the soldiers at the front lines. In the western provinces, radar arrays and surface-to-air missile sites were obliterated almost simultaneously. Radar screens did not just go dark. They flickered with ghost images and false data before the sites themselves were reduced to rubble. Welcome to the Digital Sleuth. Today we are diving into a cybercrime documentary unlike any other. This is not just about a stolen credit card or a leaked password. This is about how the world's most sophisticated digital and physical intelligence agencies collaborated to dismantle a nation's defense from the inside out. Before we uncover the terrifying secrets of how they got inside, I want to know where you are watching from and what time it is for you right now. Drop it in the comments below. And if you are already holding your breath, hit subscribe. We drop these deep dive files every day, and trust me, you do not want to miss what comes next. To understand how 200 jets could fly into one of the most heavily defended airspaces on Earth without being intercepted, we have to look past the missiles. We have to look at the code. For years, the world has watched the shadow war between Israel and Iran. We have seen the Stuxnet worm that melted centrifuges and the assassination of nuclear scientists. But by 2025, the game had changed. This was not just a hack. This was total digital penetration. In the world of cybersecurity, we talk about air gapping. This means keeping critical systems physically disconnected from the internet to prevent hacks. Iran's air defense grid was supposed to be the ultimate air gap system. So how did the Israeli Rising Lion operation bypass it? The answer lies in a complex web of cybercrime mechanics known as supply chain attacks. Think about it. Every radar dish, every server, and every communication hub needs maintenance. Intelligence reports now suggest that Mossad operatives spent years infiltrating the global supply chains for specialized industrial parts. By the time a replacement motherboard reached a radar site in Isfahan, it already had a dormant malware package embedded in its firmware. This was a digital sleeper agent. These were not your standard phishing emails. This was high-level statecraft. But it started with the same basics we see in everyday cybercrime. We see this in major financial frauds all the time. Take the 2011 RSA breach, where a simple recruitment email with a malicious attachment allowed hackers to steal secure ID tokens. In the case of Iran, the phish was aimed at mid-level engineers and contractors. Once a single laptop was compromised, the malware traveled via USB drives until it reached the heart of the defense network. This is the exact same way Stuxnet moved through its targets. But here is the kicker. On the night of the attack, Iranian engineers saw something strange. Their screens flickered and power grids in specific districts failed suddenly. When they scrambled to restore them, they assumed it was a technical glitch. In reality, that malware had been triggered remotely to create a digital fog. This is what we call electronic warfare. By jamming communications and feeding ghost targets into the radar, Israel made the Iranian defenders fight a war against shadows while the real planes were already overhead. As the bombs began to fall on the outskirts of Tehran, a second and even more daring phase of the operation was unfolding on the ground. This is where the story moves from the digital realm into the world of dark web-style coordination. Independent analysts have since revealed that Mossad did not just fly drones from Israel. They built them inside Iran. Imagine an unmarked warehouse in a quiet industrial district of Tehran. Inside, a team of operatives moved through the city with perfect local identities. Acting like ghosts, they assembled small, high-efficiency drones from parts smuggled in as commercial goods. This is the ultimate evolution of the dark web scam. Just as criminals use encrypted marketplaces to move illicit goods under the nose of the law, these operatives use the same hidden logistical networks to move military-grade components. On June 13th, these drones did not come from across the border. They rose from the heart of the capital itself. These micro-drones struck radar dishes and communication towers from angles the Iranian defenders never expected. They were blinded from the inside. But the physical destruction was only half the story. The loss of leadership was catastrophic. General Mohammad Bagheri, Hussein Salami, and Major General Gholam Ali Rashid were all targeted in untouchable bunkers. How did this happen? It happened because Mossad was not just watching from satellites. They were in the room, or at least their digital ears were. By hacking the private encrypted messaging apps used by the inner circle, Israel knew the exact timing of guard rotations and private briefings. This is a classic lesson in cybersecurity protocols. No matter how many walls you build, the human element is always the weakest link. In the aftermath, the IRGC began a brutal purge, looking for leaks and traitors. This internal paranoia is a weapon in itself. It is the same thing that happens after a major corporate data breach. The insider threat becomes a bigger fear than the hacker himself. By dawn, Tehran was a city in shock. The smoke from the military compounds rose into a sky that was finally quiet. But the silence was heavier than the explosions. The rising lion had finished its work. It left Iran's defense infrastructure in ruins and its leadership decapitated. So, what can we as average users learn from a high-stakes geopolitical conflict like this? You might not be a general, but the tactics used that night are the same ones being used against you every single day. Whether it is a nation-state or a scammer in a basement, the methodology is the same. First comes reconnaissance, where they watch your habits. Then comes infiltration, where they find the one weak link, usually a human clicking a link. Finally, they execute the strike when you are most vulnerable, often using a distraction to keep you from noticing the real damage. Here is your digital sleuth checklist for staying safe. First, adopt a zero-trust architecture. Never assume a device is safe just because it is on your network. Second, focus on firmware security. Don't just update your OS. Update your router and smart devices because hardware-level sleeper malware is a standard tool now. Third, maintain phishing awareness. If a message creates a sense of urgency, it is probably a trap. That is exactly how they got into the RSA servers, and it is how they get into your bank account. Finally, remember physical security. Your digital life is only as safe as the room your computer is in. If someone has physical access to your hardware, they own your data. The 13-day campaign of Operation Rising Lion changed the Middle East forever. It proved that in the 21st century, the most powerful weapon is not a nuke. It is information. Israel did not just hit targets, they hit the very idea of Iranian invincibility. As the sun set on the final day, the silence in Tehran was not peace. It was a deep collective breath before the next storm. The air war had ended. But the covert war of code, whispers, and ghosts was only just beginning. The question that haunts the halls of power in Tehran today is the same one that should haunt anyone with a smartphone. If they were in here once, What is stopping them from coming back? Thanks for riding along on this deep dive. This has been a cybercrime documentary presentation by the Digital Sleuth. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to smash that like button and share this video with someone who thinks their air gap system is actually safe. Stay curious. Stay vigilant. And I will see you in the next file. I am the Digital Sleuth. Signing off.